It is by this means also that living agents can be used at appropriate times. The sovereign must have full knowledge of the 5 sorts of agents, of the activities of the 5 sorts of agents. Whoops. Sovereign must have full knowledge of the activity of the 5 sorts of agents. This knowledge must come from the doubled agents. Therefore, it is mandatory that they are treated with the utmost liberality. Of old, the rise of Yin was due to I Chi, who formerly served the Saya. The Chu came to power through Lu Yu, a servant of the Yin. Therefore, only the enlightened sovereign and the worthy general, who use the most intelligent people as agents, are certain to achieve great things. Secret operations are essential in war. It is upon them the army relies to make its every move. And that's how the art of war ends. That's how it ends. So we started with this. I attempted to read it out without looking because I've been doing some weird fucking stuff, guys. Been doing some weird stuff. I've got a list. I got a checklist. Look, wait, if I hold it at an angle. See? If I hide it from the light, you can see all the check marks. I post these on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, JaKaTaKtv, JaKaTaKtv. But yeah, so it was April. Okay, it was the beginning of April. And in the middle of April, I kicked it up another notch. But I've basically been doing this checklist thing since April, but I've only been broadcasting it on Twitter in July. And I think a month is a really good time to set a goal for trying to create a new habit. Because it's not too long, but it's definitely, you're really getting into some endurance. Like if you do something for 30 days straight, continuing to do it at that point is much easier, much easier, much more relaxed and fine. And in July, I wanted to take the challenge of, because I definitely did a lot of messing up, a lot of missed check marks in April and May and June. May and June were definitely the worst. April, I was starting and I was excited. I had the most enthusiasm at that moment. Calm down, microphone. Enthusiasm at that moment in time. But then July was like a reaffirmation of like, no, I'm gonna get after it. As the Jocko would say. And so for this hydration station, we have to hydrate. Welcome to Hydration Station. Weird intro. We're going to do it how we do it. This is how we do it. Because that's how we do it. So we did the Art of War stuff. I'm just going to kind of go over the stuff that I've been working on. And then I'm going to brainstorm probably a little bit about, I have some ideas for what I want to add in to the checklist for August. Because that's the next month that comes after July. Tom, August. Learn your months. Sometimes I feel stupid. So all this kind of began. It actually technically began in February because I started taking physical therapy for my back. I have got some fucked up discs, my friends. Fucked up disc. I got a wedge disc or two. I've got, I think, one bulging disc. I've got scoliosis. My neck sticks out like this. It's not supposed to. If you look at my back from the posterior, it goes like that. Not good. That's the scoliosis. A scoliotic curve. And so I started going to physical therapy because I got health insurance in January because I got a full-time job. Amazing. Health insurance actually is pretty fucking cool. It only cost me $25 a visit. Amazing. I go to this physical therapist and they work on me for like an hour doing like fucking needling technique and massage and joint manipulation and all this other stuff. And the guy that I go to is just like super, super knowledgeable. And I can ask him so many questions, go deeper and deeper and deeper, and he explains the physiology and the muscles and why certain things do certain things and why I'm feeling certain ways. He gave me some wrist stretches that kind of affirmed the other wrist stretches that I've been seeing going around the internet. For those of you who want to know, it's this one, and this one, right? You don't actually hold this one, right? Those are the three, and those take care of like the three, this one, this side, the back side, and the front side, right? Kind of takes care of that. As I block the microphone so you can't hear what I'm saying. So it started in February, and I started doing a ton of stretches. Like, I have a list. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16 stretches. 16 different stretch exercises, and each of them get done for 30 seconds 3 times. Almost all of them. It would be boring to go through all those stretches. If you really want to know what they are, then put something in the comments, and next episode, I will explain them all. I'll show you all the stretches that I do. But really, they're kind of tailored for me and my problems, right? So I have a C2 vertebrae right over here. That's kind of stuck at the facet joints. Oh man, fun vocabulary. Go Google it. And they're kind of trapped together, which is a big part of why my neck does this. But working on my posture too, trying to stand up straight, drink more water. Drinking water is good. I don't know why I put the cap on. I'm going to be drinking this whole episode. Because that's what it's about. It's about hydrating at the station, at the way station, if you will. So a whole bunch of stretches, and it kind of is catered to my particular problems. I do want to bring out some tools. Ugh! This is going to be a show and tell episode of Hydration Station. This is a foam roller. Foam rollers are fucking amazing. Do you have pain in your body? Do you exercise? Do you want to have less pain and exercise? Get a fucking foam roller. It's versatile. You can do so many things with it. And you just roll around on the ground with this underneath you, and it massages your muscles. Why pay for massage when you could do it yourself with a foam roller? Then, for those hard to reach places, we have the lacrosse ball. This thing is brutal. You can sit on it, sort of to the, what do you call it? To the side, and the side of your glute, right where your joint kind of gets in there, the ball and socket joint for your leg, and you put one leg over the other and you just roll it around in there. It's like, whoa, it's so intense. But when you're done, it's just like, whew. So it relaxes the whole thing. It just works it out, which is nice. And then finally, the last little tool that I use for pain management, stress relief, well, physical stress relief, I guess that's the same thing, and flexibility, is the double. Oh, it's so ugly. Look at that. I should have used masking tape, but all I had was duct tape, so that's what we got. And this is great. The primary thing that I use this for, and this, I think this is something that probably everyone should do because it just feels amazing. It feels fantastic. I just didn't tell the people that we were streaming. Whoops. So the spine is in the center, and on either side of the spine, I almost remember the name of the muscle. It's like really self-explanatory, like paraspinal. I think it's paraspinal. Parallel to the spine, paraspinal, right? Let me know if I'm right. So there's long muscles that go down either side of the spine. You kind of put this here. So the spine's in the middle, and this sort of indent, make sure you're not like pushing directly on your spine. And the high points here and here roll on your muscle. And I don't actually roll this out. What I do is I put it in the lowest spot of my spine and I just chill for 30 seconds. And then I move it up one vertebrae, chill for 30 seconds, repeat. That particular exercise, I think is, oh man, I don't know if it's great for you. I don't know if maybe your paraspinal muscles are super flexible and relaxed and fine, and you don't need to worry about it. But you may want to try that out. It's pretty fun. I'm not a medical person. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm a random guy on the internet. Doubt everything that I say, please. That said, so those are the stretches. And so I'm becoming more flexible and I'm in less pain. And for those of you who aren't familiar with my story, I've lived in chronic pain since I was 12 years old. I threw out my back as a 12-year-old, like you do, because I've got some genetic spine issues, like we talked about. And I spent a week lying down on the couch, unable to tilt my head up to look at the TV. So I listened to TV for a week. And that kind of brought me back not to full health. I was never really at 100% after that point in time. It was just sort of something that became part of my life, and it sort of got easier over time. I just kind of got used to it. It was just normal. It was just like, yeah, my back hurts. Yeah, of course it does. It's a hurt back. It hurts. That's what it does. You know, it was always just like, right. You know, sometimes you get hurt and you're recovering and you expect that pain to be there, but you've recovered. So it's not there, but you're still anticipating it. It's kind of like that feeling, except there's this like dull, like almost pain that just kind of hangs out. And it's like, if you bend over the wrong way, I'm going to fucking kill you. And it's just like, ooh, not good, not good. So I just assumed there was no option. I just assumed there was no way out of it. And so I just dealt with it because that's what you do as a Thomas in the world. And so I tried chiropractic for a while. That was very good. That helped me quite a bit, but I was never able to hold on to health insurance long enough to keep at it. And so the way that chiropractic works is they realign your spine, but it goes back into its old shape very quickly because it's not supported by the muscles, and the muscles want to move it back into its old shape. So you have to be really consistent with it for a long period of time. Stick to a really rigorous schedule of stretching and getting appointments. You start out, you go like every other day, and then as time goes out, you back off and you back off and you back off. I had a really great chiropractor when I was in Northern California, and we were making some serious progress. And then I moved to Rhode Island. I got a chiropractor over there who was not as good, unfortunately, but did definitely still help me out quite a bit. So all this to say, that's kind of the background. Like, my pain's gone. It's gone. I'm talking to you right now. I don't feel anything. Well, I mean, I feel things, obviously. I'm a human being. But like, I don't feel any pain. And you'll be like, yeah, sure. Of course. You're just sitting there doing nothing. But that's very weird for me and very cool. And it's like, I get so much less upset about shit. So much shit does not bother me that used to bother me. It's so easy to get agitated by things that are stupid when you're in pain. I think it's important to recognize too. And the same thing goes for my experience of being hungry. I've been very, very hungry in moments on tour, on DIY tour with guarantees that didn't come through, and money that we use for gas instead of food, that kind of thing. And so it's a similar experience, and I think it's really good, especially if you come from very privileged backgrounds. It's good to remember, like I do, that you can't expect people that are hungry and in pain to be at their potential. You know, they're constantly below what their potential is, just for basic decision making and interacting with other people. You know, and if you can't interact with, you know, if tons of things in your life bug you, if your pet peeve list is 1,000 things long, it's going to be hard to hang out with you. You're going to be exhausting to be around. You're always going to be negative and complaining about shit. I tried to avoid that the best that I could. I feel like it was like lifting weights, and now that the weights are off, right? It's like doing farmer's carries, which I love. After you do farmer's carries for a little bit, you put the weights down, you just walk, you're like, oh my God, did I just get lighter? It's like, no, you're using all your muscles and stuff, and you're getting used to having extra weight on there. It's kind of like that, where it's just sort of like, I was very disciplined morally as a kid because morality was everything as a religious human, and doing the right thing that was the game. That was the game of life for me. It was just like, okay, how do I do the right thing better than everybody else? How do I do the really hard thing that no one else wants to do, but it's the right thing to do? Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not lie. That was a good one. There's a lot of crap from Christianity, but thou shalt not lie. I fucking love that one. You want to have some caveats in there, like thou shalt not lie. Unless someone's got a gun to your head and you need to manipulate them through deception and lies in order to save your own life or the life of someone that you care about, okay, great. There are exceptions, but for the most part, lying just hurts you, right? Hurts yourself. And so I was very disciplined morally as a kid, and that's what I was going for. And so despite the fact that I didn't feel good and things agitated me, I kept it inside. I controlled my behavior, even though I was feeling a shitty feeling. I got a lot of practice doing that. And now that the fucking weights are off, I'm just like, life is so awesome. It's amazing. Shit is so easy. The world, everything, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. And I'm sure it's going to wear off, right? I'm going to become accustomed to this way of life. And then down the road, when I start getting old and I start getting pains in my body again, I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember. This is what that was like. But I have this sort of weird backwards situation where like I'm in my 30s now and I am in way better shape now in my 30s than I was in my 20s. I have so much less pain and so much more strength now than then. And it's awesome. It's awesome. It feels great. Also, for most of my 20s, I was about like somewhere between 110 and 135 pounds. I'm 6 feet tall for reference. And now I'm like, I hang out at 165 at the moment. So it's quite good. It's quite good. So yeah, now I have this, yeah. Oh, I was a super twig. Yeah. I forget how much it was. It was insane. It was like between like 10th and 11th grade. Yeah. I was halfway through high school. I had a complete transformation. It was amazing. It was so much fun to fuck with people at school after the summer. Like over the summer, I think I grew 2 inches just over that one summer. I grew my hair out. And so it was like long, like down here, like past my shoulders. And I got my braces off and I got contacts in one summer. So I went from like twig nerd to hippie twig. So it was an upgrade. It was an upgrade. People started paying attention to me a little bit more. I got a little more attention from the ladies after that. It was very nice. It was very nice. What's up, Mongoose? Yeah. So anyway, I have this weird situation where my 30s are like so much more physically awesome than my 20s, which is like, it's pretty neat. I would have loved to be more healthy in my 20s, but yeah, I'll take what I can get. I'm very happy to be, having a spine that's rapidly improving and I'm past the point where I'm in pain all the time. It's pretty sweet. But yeah, let's keep talking about the checklist. So trying to be disciplined, trying to improve at whatever it is. I want to improve at improving. I want to improve at selecting things to improve at, It's just, we weren't just going to stack this up. So if you look on Twitter and you've been following along and you get down to that second section, right, where the exercise is, not the stretches, but the exercise, you're like, what the fuck are all these numbers? Well, I'll tell you what the numbers are because some people wanted to know, and you know what? This is how we're going to do it. Let's go. Push-ups, pretty simple. It's a fucking push-up. The number of push-ups is basically how much I can do in a set, and I always do 2 sets, and I do them every day. I'm a really big everyday guy. I try going to the gym every other day, and it's just like I could never get on the train long enough for effects to occur, right? But if I just go every day, it's great. So I'm on this program, sort of Russian style inspired program where you train every day, but it's a little bit less. You don't go to failure. You go just under failure, and you do 2 sets instead of 3. You do sets of 5 for the most part, and that basically allows you to recover within the period of 1 day instead of 2 days, which is the sort of Western style. Yeah, Russia's pretty east. If you look at the world in the Americas on the left side, also known as the west side. I know cardinal directions, and I also know cardinals. They're red. Then pull-ups, pretty simple. It just says pull. Those are pull-ups. Right now I'm doing 2 sets of 5. Initially I was just doing 1 set because it was tough. But now I'm back into it, 2 sets of 5. When I was really going ham in college, I was rock climbing almost every single day. Rock climbing. Tree climbing isn't really something you can do in a gym. They don't have tree climbing gyms. If they did, I would go. Tree climbing was my life as a little boy, running around in the forest. And so rock climbing is as close as I can get to that. It's very interesting. It's like a chess puzzle and a physical exercise all into one, and there's no impact. You can do rock climbing for pretty much your whole life. Like people at the rock gym that I went to, there were like 60-year-olds in there rock climbing. That's fine. You just take it nice and slow, and you get like really, control over your body, which is pretty sick. But yeah, pull-ups. I used to do way more pull-ups, so I'm hoping to get back onto that. Squats are squats, pretty easy. I recently started doing today at the gym. I did leg presses instead, because doing free squats is like really tricky for me, and I kind of want to build up my leg strength before I do free weight squats. Maybe that's a bad idea, maybe it's a good idea. Feel free to let me know. But yeah, I'm doing leg presses, and that's just in pounds, but everything else is just squats, and the same thing. I just mark down my highest set, whatever. I do as many as I can basically, and then I take a 30-second break, and then I do as many as I can again. So the first set's always higher, and I just record the first set. Hinges are basically deadlifts or bridges. Just rip tons of bridges. And so if there's ever a decimal place, it means I'm working in the hundreds or thousands. The hinges are at hundreds, so it's like 1.4 is 140, etc. And then just basically deadlifts. I don't go all the way to the ground yet because my spine mobility is not great, but I do basically the same kind of motion, maintaining the arch in the back, and that's a really good back strengthening exercise, lower back strengthening exercise. And it's really important for me to do that, and I feel fucking amazing when I do that consistently. And so on that wrist exercise, I gotta fuck it, just show and tell. See, that's what we have. There's rope, and then weight. And you go up, and you go down. That's it. Easy enough. My physical therapist said that, and so I do. It's good to do one with the arms kind of like this. Let me just show you. All right, like this with this roll up, and then you do one. That's fully out, like that. Also can be used to hit robbers if necessary. Yeah, basically and because a string is attached to it, I basically see this as a Brigitte mace. So, I mean, if I run into trouble, mace to the face, right? Mace to the face. To be safe. It's good to be safe. It's good to be safe. And running, that number is not miles. I would love I would love, 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 love for that number in the running column to be miles, but it's not. My knees suck. And I think, based on discussions with my physical therapist, that it's not actually a cartilage bone issue. It's a muscle issue. And so as a result of playing lots of video games and sitting down and not working out, my leg muscles are lame. They need to become stronger. And so we're going to try to make them stronger. And so when I run a quarter mile. There's a little lap, basically, a little loop that I make around the area that I live. I just wake up in the morning and go for a little run. And it's a little quarter mile lap. And I do as many as I can without my knees hurting too much. And that's basically what I'm doing. I used to run track and cross country. I used to have a 5-minute, 30-second mile, humble brag. No, that's really like my greatest physical achievement probably in life is it's actually 5:29. I made it just under 5:30. So happy when I hit that. So I'd really like to be able to run again. It feels awesome to be running on a regular basis. I just feel so much better. So I'm really trying to slowly build that up without hurting my knees. So hopefully I can get back into running again. And if not, I have a bike. I can do the cycling thing. I get that. But I love running. Running is meditation. That's running it. I ran into meditation in my life so many times. I just had no idea that I was meditating. But that's what it is to me. No headphones, no music, no nothing. Just me and the world and the sounds and the feelings and the sights of the world around me. And just breathing, just breathing and moving, and just all the focus is on my posture and my technique and my running. And I'm just constantly refocusing on the technique, making sure I'm running correctly. Using all the muscles of my body to do the running. And the other place that I found meditation in that being religious, I went to church. And being a small, rambunctious human, I got in trouble for making noise at church. And, so did my brother and my sister. And, we couldn't sit still, we were speaking at the wrong time when it was a very holy moment, It's like priest trying to have a holy moment. I'm like, wow. I'm like, Tom, it's not the right time for that. I just think that thing is really cool. Like, Tom, stop it. And so my punishment, this is the best punishment, I think, if I get to be a dad, which is my number one goal in life. If I get to be a dad, I'm 100% using this. What we would do is we would sit down at the table. That's it. That was the whole punishment. You had to sit at the table and be quiet for an hour. Because that's how long Mass was. And I was like, well, if you can't sit down and be quiet in Mass, you're going to sit down and be quiet here. And if you made a noise or asked a question or said something, then your time would reset and the count would be 0 and you would go, and it was like, oh man. And an hour of silence. Oh my God. It's crazy. But what I ended up doing, what my reaction to that was to meditate without knowing I was meditating. I would just hang out and I'll close my eyes, right? And I would do things that have come up in meditation apps that I'm on, where it's like you look at what's behind, you're looking at your eyelids right now, right? If you close your eyes, you're looking at your eyelids and there's something there. It's not completely darkness. Even if it's totally dark in the room, there's something going on and you can kind of look at it and you can squint and it changes and there's all these. And so I would just kind of play with that in my head, and I'd play with like my breathing and see, what if I breathe very slowly this time for this hour? I'll just breathe very slowly. I'll just focus on that. And so I kind of just bumped into meditating on accident before knowing what meditation was. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm as introspective as I am. I imagine a lot of it has to do with like my personality, my genes, and things like that. But yeah, running is meditation. Oh man, and it's beautiful, and I want to get back to it. So hopefully that happens. The other thing too is I'd really like to get into the reserves or the National Guard. Not really sure which reserves or National Guard, but I have a sort of feeling of wanting to give back, and being born in America was a huge advantage. And people being born in America today have a huge advantage. And so I want to kind of give back. And doing that would be a way that I could keep my job, still do my normal life. But then, you know, if shit goes down, right, and there's a fucking hurricane and there's people that need help, you know, they send in the National Guard or whatever it is. You know, and there's a chance that maybe if you're in the reserves, right, your Army reserves, Marine reserves, whatever, there's a chance that you head out over into Iraq or Afghanistan or something like that, and maybe you die out there, and that's the risk that you take. But for me, it's like I have this really strong feeling that it's something that I need to do, that it's something that I should do. You know, like back to the moral thing, that I should do, that is some sort of like I have an obligation to give back to the country that gave me everything that I have. Maybe not every, yeah, it's a little exaggeratory, right? I don't think exaggeratory is a word, but I use it a lot. Whoops. All right, it's a word now. Yeah. And so to do that, you have to run a lot. And if I can't run without my knees fucking up, then I don't belong there. But if I can get myself up to the point where I can run again, then I think that I can make a positive impact. I can contribute and serve. And I think that there's something extremely good and sort of noble about that. And I want to do that. I want to get there. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing it. Part of it's just because I love running, but I really want to get there. So this month, the best that I did was 3 laps. So not great. Quarter mile was the longest I could run without my knees hurting, which is a bummer. But there it is. So we're going to try to work on that. And I'm very aware, I'm taking it very slow. I'm very aware that it's possible that I'm just old. I'm just a 31-year-old with shot knees that doesn't get to run around anymore. And I can accept that. I have lots of things that I enjoy doing that don't involve running. But I'd like to get there. So we're going to work on that. And we're going to continue to work on that into August. Next up is protein. Drink a protein shake. The numbers are the number of protein shakes. That's it. So I do somewhere between 2 and 4 a day. I never do more than 2 in a shot because my stomach feels weird afterwards. I'm not a big fan. Also, it's true. Back to the running thing just for a second. It's true. Running is terrible for your knees, but especially if you're doing it the wrong way. A big part of the reason why people have knee problems when they're running is because they heel strike. Is because the first thing that hits the ground is their heel. And so the bone strikes, and that sends a shockwave all the way up through the legs and the knees. But if you strike with the pad of your foot, what happens is there's this levering action, and I don't think I can get my foot high enough in the camera. Okay, but there's this sort of levering action where the pad of your foot comes down. I'll do this on the side. The pad of your foot comes down, right? This is the foot, right? And then this is your heel. Before the heel hits the ground, all the muscle over here in your leg accept the weight and a sort of your body, and then it springs back up. And so if you don't touch the ground with your heel, it's just an extreme advantage. However, if you're not used to doing it that way, you're going to need these guys. The gross, nasty double lacrosse ball. It's very easy. Take 2 lacrosse balls, tape them together. And what you do is you stand on it. That's right. You put this right in the middle of your arch and you stand on it for 5 minutes. And then you do your other foot. And so all that arch that you have to use when you're striking with the pad of your foot instead of the heel, if you're not used to it, it takes a while to build up that muscle. And so making sure you take care of it and you help it to relax after running is huge. And the double lacrosse ball has totally removed all my plantar fasciitis. I don't feel it anymore. It's totally gone. I want something like this for my knees, but yes, I haven't found it yet. All right, okay, we're moving on from running for real. Protein is protein. I have a protein shake. I drink it. It's great. Cold training is extremely effective. It's amazing. It's beautiful. You should try it. The number is simply the number of minutes I'm in the shower with the water on maximal cold or minimal heat, if you want to do some inverse thinking. If you're interested in trying this shit out, temperature regulation gets way better. You're not as hot when it's hot. You're not as cold when it's cold. It helps both sides. It's really cool for that. And it is the best wake up in your life. No cup of coffee can do what a cold shower can do. Your body just wakes the fuck up. You just, holy shit, let's do some stuff. I want to do stuff. We're doing stuff right now. That's what happens in the cold shower. And if you're like, but Jack or Tom, depending on how you refer to me. Man, I've been thinking about changing my public ID from JaKaTaK to Mongoose for a while now, but I feel like there's just way too much brand recognition in JaKaTaK. It's kind of nice to start over though. There's some I change a lot. So like there's some old aspects of who I was back then that are kind of attached to the JaKaTaK name. A lot of arrogance and disrespect and, just being young and stupid. And I'm sure 10 years from now, I'll look down on what I'm doing now and be like, holy shit, what an idiot I was. Hopefully, because it means I'm still learning. Hopefully, when you look back at yourself, you're like, wow, what an idiot. Because you've improved so much in your life. So hopefully that's the case. I think it's a good thing. But yeah, so if you look into it, if you're like, I want to try that out. I'd like to have really good temperature regulation. I'd like to go to the restaurant. I'd like to go to the movies and the freezer section of the grocery store without ever being cold. Just little day-to-day stuff, especially if you're in a cold environment like the Northeast or Canada, if you're Canadian. You want to try it out. Just take a regular shower and then turn it to cold at the end for 5 seconds. You can do that. It's 5 seconds. It's not going to hurt you. You're going to think it's going to hurt you. You're going to feel the cold and your body's reaction is, this is bad. We need to get out of this situation. That's your lower brain, right? It's your limbic system panicking. Control that shit, right? It's also a good emotional control exercise. Control your actions. Feel the feelings, control the actions, right? And so you just stay there. You just stay there. And every second you stay there, you're becoming stronger. It's amazing. It's great. Try it out. So you start with 5 seconds, and then next time do 10, then 20. And then eventually, when you're ready for it, start with a cold shower. Ooh, that's the real magic. When you start with a cold, that shock that just opens you up, gets you going. It's incredible. The rest of the stuff is just general hygiene stuff. I'm awful at remembering to floss and brush my teeth. It's gross. I know. I'm ashamed of it. It sucks. But that's been the way for pretty much my whole life. I need to write it down. And I've always been sort of like, why am I not a successful human being, adult? Because I don't brush my teeth and floss every day like I should unless I write it down. It's like, no, it's just, you're shitty at this. You're good at some things and you're shitty at some things. This is one of the things you're shitty at. And you just gotta be like, okay, I write this down. Not a big deal. So it's just, brush your teeth, put the contacts in, shave, make sure nails aren't too long. Basic shit. So that's that kind of hygiene section. That's the third section of the list. And then finally we've got, finally there are two more sections. Finally we get this second to last, we get skills section. Skills pay the bills. I think touch typing and the typing, if you can type accurately and quickly, in the age of the interwebs, I think that's one of the most powerful skills and it's extremely underrated in my opinion. And so I use a website called typing.com. It's fantastic. It's very similar to Duolingo, which we'll talk about later. in that it kind of turns learning into a bit of a game. And it basically takes all of the psychological abuses of mobile game design and uses them to manipulate you into learning things. That's awesome. That's the positive side of all this psychological manipulation and social media and games and things like that. There is a real power in that, and we can use it for good. And the first tea time, however many years ago, when I made that, I started vlogging like you do on the interwebs with all you people, all you wonderful people here. That was my main sort of thing. I was like, I believe that gaming is the future of education. If we turn all learning into play, then we'll all be fucking smart. The hard thing about learning is no one wants to do it because it's not fun. If you make it fun, if you use all these techniques that are built into games, you know, think of a game like Overwatch. Something that's really, really simple that you might not notice is that Overwatch, when you're playing quick play, automatically cues you into another game. So you probably play it because you don't have to make the decision to play another game. And most of the time, you make the non-decision. And what many people don't realize is not making a decision is making a decision. And so not making a decision about whether you're going to play another game or not, if the default mode is another game just queues up and there you are in it. And you're like, well, I've got a team, I got to support this team and I got to do my job and I like this game. And so sure, I'll just play another game, right? I'll just play another game. Little stuff like that, little tiny little tricks like that are built into games and algorithms and stuff can be used to teach. And I think that that's the future. And that's what I want to do with my life. I want to get into games. I want to build games. I want to gain knowledge. I want to use that to develop educational games where the person playing has no idea, or if almost no idea, that they're being educated. It should feel like a game. And then they're just like, fuck, I know Japanese. Wow, I've been playing this game a lot. Okay, whatever, cool. So yeah, I want to do that with my life, and I've been pretty focused on that for a long time. So that's it kind of all aligns in that area. I actually don't know how this tangent got started, but we're gonna move on. Art of War, which is what we started this episode with. I'm working on memorizing the Art of War. Little memorization tip for those of you trying to memorize long strings of information. Start at the end and work your way to the beginning. You have the most focus at the beginning of a practice, right? We'll call like a rep. One rep would be like reading through the paragraph that you're trying to have memorized. You know, maybe you're given a speech. This is probably a decent. Maybe you have a public speaking event and you're worried and you got to memorize this speech and it's so tough. Start at the last sentence and read it 3 times and close your eyes and try to say it. And do it again and do it again until you've got it. And then you read the second to last sentence. And then you read the second to last sentence and the last sentence in a row. Because that last sentence is your most secure knowledge, you have the most focus at the beginning. I'll do this backwards. You have the most focus at the beginning part, which is the tricky part, the part that you've practiced the least. And the part where you're going to be losing your vigilance, losing your focus, not doing as well, that's at the end. And so it kind of evens out the natural waning of focus over time that's going to occur. No matter how vigilant you are, it will occur. You will slowly lose focus. And so that's how I learned music. Whenever I had to learn a piece of music, you learn the last measure, second to last measure, third to last measure, and you do it until you each section, each repetition, if you can do it perfectly 3 times in a row, that's how you know you're done. And so that is a little tip of memorization, comes from my music learnings. And so I'm doing that with the Art of War. The other thing that I'm working on is something called mental models, and I have a book that I think you should purchase. And if the green screen can get, oh, there it is. You have to do a little tilt. Super thinking. Gabriel Weinberg is actually the guy who made DuckDuckGo and continues to work on it. DuckDuckGo is a alternative to Google. If you don't want Google spying into your shit, you can use DuckDuckGo. It's pretty baller. It's not as good as Google, but what I do is I just DuckDuckGo first, and if I find what I'm looking for, fine. And if I can't, then I go to Google. But yeah, so mental models are great. Mental models are this like, it's a name for a thing that I knew existed, but I didn't know what it was. And so an example of a mental model is, there's so many here. What's a good one? You know what, we'll start at the beginning. I think inverse thinking is a great mental model. So inverse thinking is when you look at something in the opposite way. So you might think, I want to be right more. I want to be correct. When I say something, I want it to be accurate. I want it to be supported by evidence. I want it to be right. And that's hard. That's tough. But what's a little bit easier than trying to be right more, in my opinion, maybe, and it's an example of inverse thinking, is being less wrong. It's trying to avoid saying things that you're not sure about 100%, that you don't really have the facts to back it up. Just backing off that stuff. Just backing off. And then what you're left with is this small group of things that you're pretty sure about, and you can kind of stick to those things. If you do that, then you're right more. So you've accomplished your goal of being right more by focusing on being wrong less. And that's a small example of inverse thinking. You can apply that to so many things. It applies to, And so this is a book with 300 mental models. So 300 separate things like inverse thinking. And you probably know some of these things. You've probably bumped into them, right? Occam's razor, right? You know, usually the simplest thing ends up being right. Occam's razor, more or less, right? You've got anchoring. You go to the car dealership, you say, I want this for $15,000. You say, that's absurd, $25,000. You say, no way, $18,000. Because you started them off at the $15K, right? They're more likely to end up closer down to that area. I think like Donald Trump does that very well with ideas, or I should say Donald Trump's Twitter. He doesn't actually do those tweets. That's a team of political agents that are incredibly savvy and craft the perfect political strategies and manipulation through Twitter. Be careful out there. What the Trump Twitter does all the time is goes into this crazy, ridiculous idea that's like that. No, what that? How could you even ever want that? And then you come back and you give a slightly less crazy idea, and people are like, oh, well, okay, I can stomach that. At least he's not saying to murder all of the immigrants. At least it's not that. You know, it's like, that's anchoring. So you can anchor with ideas. You can anchor in a negotiation with money. It's a really basic, classic mental model, but there are tons of these mental models, and they're so useful. So the mental models line is basically, I try to, instead of reading the book, I try to remember as much as I can of the book. And it's got this, I can't really show it on screen because the green screen fucks it up, but in the opening area and in the closing area, the first and last pages of the books, it just lists the names of all the mental models, all 300 of them. And so I just look at the name and then I try to come up with a new example for it. And if I can come up with a new example for it each time, then I'm sort of demonstrating to myself that I understand it enough to apply that mental model to multiple fields. And with that kind of understanding, I'll be able to use it in my life, hopefully. And I've already run into situations where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. I can use this mental model here to get out of this little tricky scenario that I've found myself in. You know, but they're neat. I think it's pretty incredible that this particular book, it just distills so many useful things in just a short format, and I really love that. You know, there's a Twitter account I follow called Naval. It's kind of famous Twitter account, and one of the tweets was like, oh no, it wasn't a tweet. He was on a podcast. What podcast was he on? Was he on Joe Rogan? Anyway, he was on a podcast, And he said, oh no, he was on the Knowledge Project. The Knowledge Project is probably my favorite podcast. Now I'm going into the rabbit hole of Naval tweets that I've read, and I forgot what I was talking about. Mental models. Crap. Oh no. Sometimes this occurs. Sometimes it occurs. We're gonna let it go. We're already almost at an hour. I think this series is very similar to the last 2 episodes. So I had like a long first episode, and then I kind of responded to a bunch of the comments. Probably gonna do a kind of similar thing here, or maybe like in a week or a couple of days, depending on, if the comments are particularly interesting and they spark any sort of ideas or things I want to talk about. Then I'll make a sort of response episode that'll be a little bit shorter, but I'll read your comments and kind of see what's going on, and then probably pick it up again next month. Maybe not. Maybe I don't know. As a content creator, you're supposed to be consistent, and I'm not a consistent content creator. Luckily, I have a job, so since this is just fun for me, I can do it whenever I want to do it. Which is what it is. And I hope that's okay with you. I really do. Almost done. Japanese, Duolingo, really great program. I'm learning Japanese. I work for a Japanese-owned company, and we communicate with our Japanese mothership over in Japan quite a bit. And so career-wise, it's very advantageous for me to know Japanese. And Duolingo is a way to learn Japanese while basically playing games, that's what I want. So, I should probably, so I did a little example of like the art of war and the mental models. I'm not going to do an example of my typing. I think my words per minute are, I could record that. Instead of getting a check mark, I record the words per minute for the exercise. I just do one exercise a day. I could record the words per minute there so then we could see some progress going on. I think I'll do that for August. That'll be an upgrade. Gotta upgrade you. +1 armor. It's pretty good. But yeah, Japanese, I know some basic stuff like arigato and ohayo, which is good morning. And I say good morning to my Japanese coworker every day. It's great. It's great. Like, whew, great. And I say bonjour to my French coworker every day. It's great. It's great. And so I want to expand that and learn more things. It's interesting though. I don't have when I'm in the app, it's only using words and stuff that I know already. And it's presenting me with the information, and I don't have to come up with anything from scratch. So like trying to do an example of what's like, I could just say vocabulary that I know, like petto is pet. And neko is cat, and tori is bird, and inu, such as Shiba Inu, is dog. Little things like that. I can do sentences, I swear to God. I just can't think of a sentence that I can do right now. Anyways, working on Japanese. I'll try to come up with a little bit stronger example of my progress, so that way each month when the video comes out, I'll be like, oh yeah. He really is practicing. He's not just writing like check marks on a piece of paper. He's actually doing shit, because I understand that you just see a piece of paper and you're like, okay, all right, you're putting check marks down. Great. But are you really? Are you really? I am. I miss some. I miss some this month, but far, far less than I've ever missed. Although April was almost perfect. I think this month was a lot like April in that it was almost perfect. I think I missed 10 things, 10 check marks. One day I just did not do my stretches, went to bed, totally forgot about it. And I was just like, oh, I didn't finish my stretches from the morning. Not good. Not good. But yeah, so I can't think of any Japanese right now. Sorry. Forgive me, sensei. I have a Japanese sensei. He's not Japanese, but he knows a lot of Japanese and he knows a lot of Japanese stuff, and his English is fantastic. And so Varen, Tony, if you're out there. Arigato. Then cleaning. I am awful at keeping my apartment clean. Awful at it. Terrible. It's bad. And I basically, before doing this, adding cleaning to my checklist, I would basically like wait until it was like an event where people were going to come over and hang out. And then I would just like go nuts and clean the whole apartment. And it was really like, draining. I don't want to spend the whole day cleaning. So now I just make sure I clean one thing a day. That's it. Just clean one thing a day. It's just like, what's the dirtiest thing in this whole apartment? It's like the floor in this room is the worst. Okay, I'll just do the floor in that room. Done. And so keeping these little consistencies coming through is quite nice. Water is water. The numbers for the water are not liters or gallons. They are water bottles. They are this water bottle, which I think is 28 ounces, but I'm not sure. I want to look it up. I'm going to do some more. I looked in at the water. I was like, ooh, that looks tasty. I want some more. By the way, if you ever get yourself to a point where you're only drinking water and you aren't drinking any sugar beverage, water starts to taste amazing. It takes a while. It takes like 3-4 months before it starts to kick in. But water is just like, I want more. I want more right now. Oh, it's fantastic. And drinking more water gets your body used to drinking water. And then you just get thirsty more often. So you don't have to remember to drink water. You just have to remember to keep your water bottle with you at all times. Wadu badu. All right. So that's water bottles, not liters. And then meditate. It's pretty easy. I just meditate. And 2 types of meditation I like to do. I've talked about this before, but 2 types of meditation I like to do are mindfulness meditation and metta meditation. Mindfulness meditation is very popular right now, so you probably have heard of it. If not, it's very simple. All you do is pay attention. That's it. That's actually all you do. And there are lots of little tricks and things that'll help you, you know, if you use some guided meditation to get you on the path and kind of figure out what's going on. But at a certain point, you basically just pay attention. You sit still. You just observe what's occurring. You don't force anything to happen. You don't try to stop things from happening or make things happen. Things happen, like breathing. It just happens. You don't have to think about it. It's just there. And so you just look at it. You just observe the breath. And you observe physical sensations in your body. Like my feet, I can feel my feet on the floor. I don't have to move them to feel that my feet are touching the floor right now. And my butt is touching the chair. I can feel it, right? I can feel it in my butt. So that's where you feel it sometimes. Physical sense, heat, cold, right? It's kind of hot in this room. I can kind of sense that. What's going on there. And sounds, right? Being totally quiet. All of a sudden, you hear all these sounds you never heard before. You're just like, wow, I can hear like a lot of people doing stuff outside from my room with a window closed. If I just sit here and it's quiet, I'm just listening. I hear all the birds and I hear the cats do their thing. They're always doing their thing. So that's mindfulness meditation. You just pay attention. You just don't force anything and pay attention. And then metta meditation is the real trick. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. If you have trouble being salty with people, being impatient with people, people getting on your nerves, then metta meditation is the meditation for you. It's great. And what you do is you attempt to lock into this thing called metta, which roughly translated means loving kindness. And it's different than empathy. It is different than emotional empathy, right? So in the loving kindness that is in the presence of pain is comforting. It doesn't feel painful when someone else is in pain, but you just have this strong urge to comfort the person that's in pain, which is optimal. Because if someone is in pain, they don't need another person in pain that can't deal with shit. They need someone that's going to be a support structure for them, that's going to be there in strength when they're not strong, right? And so it's such a useful reaction to train. And so what you do is you imagine someone, and there are two sides, we'll do both sides. You imagine someone that you love, you care about. Generally speaking, it's not great to pick someone that you're in romantic love with. Much better is like friend love, family love, that kind of a thing. Maybe pick your dad or something like that, or your brother. I just pick a different person pretty much every time. And you imagine them in pain. You imagine something bad happening to them. And you focus on the feeling of comfort, reaching out and trying to comfort them, you know? And then the other side is you imagine this person, the same person, in complete joy and bliss. You imagine them getting everything they've ever wanted, having, you know, all the skills and the relationships and the life that they want. You imagine good things happening for them. And loving kindness, in the same way, it's kind of opposite to emotional empathy, where you're just mirroring what the other person feels. It's also opposite to, it's a German word. Oh, I have German audience. Oh, it's going to be bad. Oh, I should have practiced this. Schadenfreude? It's like basically taking joy in someone else's pain. So it's kind of the opposite of that. It's basically taking joy in someone else's joy. And so you focus on, it's the opposite of envy, right? You focus on them, all these good things happening to this person that you love, and you focus on feeling joy for them, feeling happy for them, being glad that these good things are happening for them. And it's more just sort of realizing that that's actually what you want. Like, you want the people around you to be happy. You want to have good relationships, you know? Deep down, you want that. You do. You are a social bonding mammal. You can't help it. There are some of us who are sociopathic, psychopathic. This doesn't apply to you, so don't worry about it. You're fine. You're going to operate just fine in society. Sociopaths and psychopaths generally do. You get to break all the rules. It's quite advantageous. But if you're not in that category, then this applies to you. And that's kind of what you really want deep down, isn't it? Isn't it? So that's meditation. And I don't do the negative side of it, the thinking about someone in pain and thinking about comforting them quite as much. I do that, but I do always end on the positive. And sometimes I just do the positive. I just think about someone that I care about and awesome, great stuff happening to them and just being happy about that image. I think about them in their most genuine sort of smile, where it's like, I remember a time where they were just so clearly, genuinely happy about something that was happening. And just when you get out of that positive imagination, oh man, if I do that in the morning, I interact with people throughout the day in a completely different way than when I don't do it in the morning. I try to do it every morning. I at least do I pretty much do 10 minutes of meditation a day. I try to do metta every morning because it just socially makes everything better. You're more open. You're more likely to give people the benefit of the doubt. You know, you're more likely to forgive, and less things bother you. You just have less little pet peeves, you know? You blame people less. It's nice. It's a very good feeling. So that's it. So those are the things that I worked on this month. And it only took me an hour and 5 minutes to talk about them. Great. So the question is, what are we going to do in August? I think that we're gonna do a couple of things. I'm gonna get a pen.
Look at this little bird. Look at him. He's so cute.
He doesn't like being picked up. But he's getting used to it because I keep picking him up anyway. That's how it works. It's called classical conditioning. Not as strong as operant conditioning, but it's still quite strong. Okay, so I used to do downward dog for calf stretch and just core workout kind of a thing. I would just kind of hold it as long as I could, which 5 minutes was my best. Not great. But sit-ups are part of the PT requirements for a lot of the military stuff. So I'm just going to start doing sit-ups. I didn't do sit-ups before because it was really tough on my lower back. But now that I've been working out a lot, doing deadlifts and strengthening my lower back, I did some sit-ups and I was pretty much fine. And so we're just gonna do sit-ups. It's pretty classic, pretty normal. But I'm really gonna focus on the technique. I think that's a really important thing about sit-ups. It's easy to do them wrong, and it's all about technique. It's all about technique. When I'm doing any of these exercises, I'm in meditation mode, right? I'm mindfulness mode. Instead of paying attention to my breath, I'm paying attention to the technique. I'm just totally focused in on how my body is moving and what it's doing and trying to get it to line up in the correct way and to be better and better and more perfect in the motion, right? And so I do that the best that I can. Obviously, having a trainer would be really helpful. Have another pair of eyes telling me what I'm doing wrong. But I'm doing okay on my own for the time being. And if I get rich enough, I'll go get a trainer. So we're gonna do sit-ups instead of downward dog because I got a calf stretch somewhere in the middle of this month that is incredible. Basically, I need like a really intense stretch. So I do basically an incline, right? I put my foot on an incline of some sort, and then I just sort of lean forward into it. You do one with a straight leg, one with a bent leg. You know, I said I wasn't gonna describe all the stretches, but I'm getting pretty fucking close. So I kind of replaced my calf stretch. And if you're pad striking while you're running, the calf does a lot of work. And if you're not used to doing it, the calf gets really tight really fast, and you need to relieve a lot of that tension. And so I have some very nice aggressive calf stretches for that are super effective. So we got sit-ups. We're gonna put sit-ups into the list. I think we're pretty good on all the other stuff. And I don't want to add too much because I want to do this every month. And if I do this for a year, that means I'm doing 12 new things. And at some point, maybe I'll probably pull back on some of the stretching because I won't need it as much. Like right now, I do my C2 stretch, which is actually not really a stretch. It's more I just lay there with a piece of plastic that's placed perfectly at my C2, C3 vertebrae. And you just lay down on it for 15 minutes. I do that in the morning and before I go to bed. And that has totally solved my neck pain. It's not perfectly mobile, but it used to hurt. Doing this, let me just try to fix my posture here. Doing this, that used to hurt me. It used to be pretty painful. And now it's not because those two joints aren't as quite stuck together as they were. So it's still got a little bit to work out, but eventually I'm not going to need to do that for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at night. That's a half an hour. That's a shit ton of time. And so as I get more time, I'll add more things, but I don't want to add too many things too quickly. It's like Heroes in Overwatch. It's an Overwatch day. I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch. I love that game. It's like Overwatch. If you add too many heroes too quickly, it's no good. People get overwhelmed with the amount of complexity and the things that they have to learn to be able to play the game. But if you keep your cast of characters at a reasonable number, not a League of Legends 200 heroes. Okay, I don't think there are 200, but there's a lot of heroes in League. Champions, whatever. People get so mad about the silliest thing. Isn't that a silly thing to get mad at? They're just like, they're not heroes, they're champions. It's like, who the fuck cares? There are so many more important things to be upset about, my dude. So many more important things. Let this one go. It's insignificant. I can tell you don't belong to my tribe because you used the wrong word. Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his woke level? It's over 9,000! What, 9,000? Yes. Yes. So we don't want to add too many things. And I think that the next thing that I want to do, I'm pretty happy with my stretching, my strengthening, and then the regular stuff. But I think we add into the skills section here. And I want to get down to something fundamental. I want to understand more things that are kind of like the mental models where they just apply in a lot of different places. I was sort of thinking, what's the most fundamental thing? What is the set of knowledge that is more fundamental, more ubiquitous than any other set of knowledge? And I came up with a few answers. I think that communication is language, right? Communication, expressing your thoughts clearly and concisely in a way that everyone can understand. That's probably the most fundamental thing. Because if you don't have communication, you don't get to have biology. Because people aren't talking to each other. You know? If you have all kinds of knowledge and things, but you can't share them and communicate them with the rest of the world, then you've kind of wasted that time. I mean, it was maybe just you kind of used it very selfishly, right? Like, if you have a lot of knowledge or things that you can share that'll improve other people's lives, I feel like you have a responsibility to do that. I feel like I have a responsibility to do that. Maybe that's not your perspective, which is fine. I'm not trying to push my views on you. I'm just trying to communicate what my views are. But yeah, and so I think communication is probably the most fundamental thing. But I already spend a lot of time doing communication stuff. Whenever I'm playing Overwatch, for example, one of the things that I try to focus on is morale and communication and trying to figure out what the rest of the team's doing. How do you deal with a guy who rolls up into the voice chat just being super toxic and negative? To me, it's like, you can be upset about that and be like, oh, it's a toxic person, what the fuck? Or it could be a challenge. And to me, I like the challenge. It's sort of like, okay, how pissed off are you? How do I handle you? And that doesn't necessarily mean being super nice. It's sort of like, how can I manipulate this person who's super salty to have slightly better morale than they have? To maybe focus on the game a little bit more or try to prove themselves. Like, how can I do that? How can I improve the social situation that's going on? And so I do that a lot. That's my favorite part about playing team games in general. And because voice chat is so common in Overwatch, it's really easy to just constantly get a group of 6 people that, just total strangers. Sometimes not, but a lot of times just, you run into new people. You get people to fill in slots. You don't have a full 6 stack, right? And so it's this little challenge every time. It's sort of like, all right, how can we assimilate this person into a culture of like constructive communication where they're saying things that are useful and leaving the rest to themselves or leaving the rest till after the match, right? Like, and working on that myself, right? Trying to communicate better myself, not just manipulating the group into having better morale. And manipulate's a really negative word. Persuade, right, is probably a better word. The difference between manipulation and persuasion, as far as dictionary definition goes, is that manipulation is changing someone's behavior for your own benefit, and persuasion is changing someone's behavior for the benefit of both parties. And so persuasion is really the goal, right? You want a win-win scenario because then you don't burn a bridge. Then you can go back to that person. You can develop trust and relationship, right? That's what you want. You're looking for win-wins all the time. I think that's where it's at communication-wise. So I already do a lot of communication. That's already something I do, and it's already part of my life kind of automatically. I don't have to put it in here. It just kind of happens. It's sort of like I don't have to put breathing on this list because it occurs. Okay, it just occurs. So maybe the next two most fundamental bodies of knowledge that I can think of. Please let me know if you think of a more fundamental body of knowledge. Are physics and math. And I don't know which one is more fundamental because physics relies on math, but physics is like really fucking useful. It's around you all the time. It's just constant. If you want to know, how do I set up my air conditioners in my apartment so that they will, the right rooms will be cooled for the least amount of energy spent? How should I leave the door? Where should I set up the fans? What temperature should I set it at? It's physics. That's just a regular life problem that if you have a understanding of fundamental physics, you can answer those questions without having to have the specific knowledge of air conditioners, because you know what heat transfer is and how it works. And you have a basic idea of how the air moves around and things like that. As you can see, I don't have a very strong understanding of physics, so I can't explain it very well. But I do know that that's physics. That's as much as I know. I do know that physics is there, right? If you understand physics, you're going to be able to drive your car better because you'll understand what's going on around you and the physics of the situation. And you won't maybe do something really silly like drive way too fast downhill and take a turn while still going downhill and spin out on your way to school and totally wreck your passenger side door on a curb. Perhaps. Not that I've ever done that. Ever. But, perhaps, a knowledge of physics might be helpful in that kind of scenario. But I'm going to stop trying to come up with examples because they're not that great, but I have this confidence that physics is really up there. But then there's math. And math is like, oh man. Math is almost the ultimate fundamental knowledge because everything is math eventually. Everything is eventually math. Like when you boil it and boil it down all the way to the very bottom, there's math there. And math is just infinitely complex. You can always learn more about math. There's math that people haven't figured out yet. Okay? There's math out there that we don't even understand, but we know it exists and we're trying to figure it out today. Okay? Like, I learned that recently. Blew my mind. So math is pretty fucking cool. And so is physics. And so I think I'm just going to add both of them sequentially. And so it doesn't matter too much because I'm going to learn both. I'm going to make it a daily habit to learn something about physics or study, try to practice, learn, whatever. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. And that's the other thing too, right? Like all this shit that I've written down, I've mostly not known what I'm going to do when I do it. I'm just sort of like, as a religious person, I wanted to memorize the Bible so I could quote Bible verses at people and be like, aha, I know what the right thing is because I've memorized the Bible. It's got all the right things in it. But I'm not religious anymore, and I don't think the Bible has all the right things in it. It has some interesting and useful things in it. It has some really destructive and dangerous things in it, like most books. But the art of war is a really fundamental set of knowledge that applies to conflict. All conflict. Conflict in relationship, conflict in business, conflict in military war, conflict in sports. Did I already say sports? Anyway. And so it is a really fundamental base set of knowledge. And so I was like, you know what? It would be really good to have all these tenets in my mind, because I've read through the book once or twice, but I don't remember everything. And when I do remember something, like, oh, this is the indirect and the direct force. This is the tracer coming around the back and the main army going in the front. The direct and the indirect. That's the art of war. Bam. It's like, what? No one designed Overwatch thinking, we're going to make sure it follows the principles of the art of war. The art of war is just this tome, this 2,500 year tome, old tome. That's how old it is. It's ancient Chinese tome of knowledge that still applies today, and it applies in a various number of fields, which is, as you can see, we're getting to a little bit of a pattern here. That's the kind of stuff that I want to know. I want the best bang for my buck. You know, if I'm going to be practicing something, learning something, I want it to apply to as many things as possible. And so I didn't know how I was going to memorize the art of war. I was just like, I'm going to memorize the art of war. I opened up the book and I was like, how do I do this? And then ding, light bulb. Oh yeah, that music thing that I used to do. I'll just do that to the art of war. I'll start at the back, work my way in the beginning. And I've been doing that. So there it is. There it is, right? So math or physics? I think you need math to do physics, but I can learn math really fast. That's one of, we're talking about things that I'm shitty at, like remembering basic shit, like taking care of myself. But I'm really good at learning math. I'm really good at it. That's just I just got lucky. I got the math gene. I don't know what it is, but I got it. And when I was in school for music, I was taking 22 to 24 credit hours a semester. I was working 3 jobs and I was part of 5 performing ensembles. And so I was a busy boy. Okay. I learned 200 pieces of music a year on average. It was intense. And so I didn't really have time to spend on gen eds. So in my history and English and writing classes and all that stuff, I would bullshit every paper. Also, very good bullshitter on papers. I got very good grades knowing nothing about the subjects by making shit up and, just playing into the fact that they lowered a lot of the standards and, people have just been so lenient, at least in my experience, about grading and stuff, with a whole generation of Dr. Spock and self-esteem and all that bullshit that us millennials got trapped with. Sorry, guys. We got fucked. We got fucked by Dr. Spock. Not cool, man. Not cool. Especially in today. Oof, that doesn't sound good. Go ahead and take that one out of context on me, will ya? But yeah. We've gone too far. We've gone too far into this rabbit hole. And I've already forgotten what I was talking about, because now I'm looking down. We're talking about math. We're talking about science. We're talking about learning shit. Fuck. This is why we shouldn't go this long in episodes. But here we are. Here we are nonetheless. We will continue on. What the fuck was I talking about? You can rewind. I can't. So don't be too judgmental. You get to rewind, be like, obviously you're talking about this. No, you probably just remember it. Right, we were talking about math. And so, anyway, I didn't have a lot of time for gen ed, so I bullshitted a lot of the papers. But in math was the best. Because what I would do in math is, I'm not really good at remembering shit, but I am very good at figuring shit out in math. And other things too, but especially in math. And so what I did was went into class, and they said, you don't have to show up to the class. You just have to show up to these 3 exams. And these 3 exams are going to make up the basis of what your grade is. And so as long as you do well on these 3 exams, you're fine. And if you need to be here and to practice and to learn all this stuff, great. And if you don't need to be here, and this is easy for you, and you can ace the test, more power to you. And I've been waiting for someone to say that to me my whole life. I hated math homework. I hated going to math class, hated it so much, because I was just like, all right, I figured it out. Can I take the test now? And we're like, no, we're going to talk about this for another 60 minutes. I don't know why I didn't say an hour, but 60 minutes. And so I've been waiting for someone to say that my whole life. So I was like, great. So I walked out of the class immediately. I was like, okay, let's find out if I can pull this shit off. And I went back into the class and they had the first test and they printed up the formulas and gave it out with the test. And I was just like, it's all right here. So I would look at the formula and I would look at the problem and it would kind of do a sort of reverse proof to figure out how the formula, which formula applied to which problem. And then I answered the questions and I handed the test and I walked out the door. And I did that 3 times and I was done. And so I can figure math shit out. Not great at remembering it, but I can figure it out. And so doing physics first, because there's math involved, but if they show me the math, then I'll be like, okay, the math, there it is. And I'd be learning the math that's most practical, that has applications to real life. I'm kind of doubting myself there. I think arithmetic is super practical, right? Like that's really practical. I'd love to be more snappier at arithmetic, especially in my head. Not very good at arithmetic in my head. But yeah, it's all very interesting stuff. So we're making a live decision and we're just going to say math. You know what? We're going to say math. Ready? Let's say it. Math. Luckily, I happen to know how to do this one really well. There's this awesome site called Khan Academy, Khan, as in Genghis or Genghis, depending on how you feel. GIFs and GIFs, etc. That kind of a thing. And they have math. And you start at counting and you work your way up to calculus 10 or however far it goes. And it's like I've been talking about, it's game format. It's little exercises, little fun little games. You try to figure some shit out. And they give you another little piece of the puzzle, a little bit at a time. They utilize space repetition algorithms so that you're thrown the problems. The more you get them wrong, you get those kind of problems more often. So you get more practice. The things you get right more often, you see them less and less and less. They get spaced out more and more, which is basically a human hack on how our memory works. And so really, really well done. Really good design, and the algorithm for the space repetition is on point as far as I understand. So we're just going to do that. We're going to do, I don't know how they break it up. I haven't been on Khan Academy in a while, but we're going to do that. August will be the month of math. The month of math. And we're just going to improve math. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to improve my math skills. And maybe report on how that's going. Like, oh yeah, I mathed some statistics today and it was pretty neat. But yeah, we're gonna math. That's what we're gonna do. Cool. And that's it. We're gonna keep doing what we've been doing. We're gonna keep our habits that we've habituated, and we're gonna add math. And pretty sure September is going to be physics. Pretty sure. I don't know if I can keep this up. I really don't. I got a lot of momentum right now, so I'm feeling good. But usually when I'm feeling good, I get overambitious. And so we'll see what happens. You know, get ready for the tweets to come out that are like, I failed today. So let's go ahead and count up the failures. We had one failure on the 22nd. And then 29th was pretty bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Great. So July was a month of 10 failures. May. Ooh, I shouldn't use that word if we're talking about months. Hopefully in August, we'll have less than 10 failures. and so doing be more disciplined by being less the opposite of disciplined, because we're using inverse thinking, because that's a mental model and it actually applies to the situation perfectly. And with that, see you next time.